Public Spaces Protection Order is Here's an amazing story. Isabel Vaughan-Spruce is the leader of 40 Days for Life campaign in Birmingham, England. She's not a terrorist, she's the opposite. She's someone who prays a lot. Well, earlier this month, she was praying silently outside an abortion clinic in Birmingham. She wasn't yelling or carrying a sign or blocking the doorway or doing anything disruptive. She was just praying. Not to the government, to God. And that's not allowed anymore. So police approached her and arrested her and charged her with violating a public space protection order and committing, quote, antisocial behavior. And we're not making this up. It was caught on video. Here it is.
What are you here for today?
Physically, I'm just standing here.
Okay. Why here of all places? I know you don't live nearby.
But this is an abortion centre.
You praying?
I might be praying in my head out loud.
So I'll ask you once more, will you voluntarily come with us now to the police station for me to ask you some questions about today and other days where there are allegations that you've broken public spaces protection?
If I've got a choice, then no.
Okay, well then you're under arrest on suspicion of failing to comply with the Public Spaces Protection Order.
Public Spaces Protection Order. Isabel Vaughan-Spruce joins us tonight. Isabel, thank you so much for coming on. So this order is designed, the law is designed to protect public spaces from praying?
Well, maybe if I could give a bit of background to this. So for 20 years or around that, I've been going outside abortion centres and praying there and offering help to women. I know, well over 100 women who've accepted our help and continued their pregnancies. But in September this year, the local council in Birmingham brought in this censorship zone, this PSPO. Formerly, these were used for dog fouling and drunken behaviour and things like that, but they're now popping up around the country surrounding abortion centres, and they ban behaviour like protesting, but it also names prayer and counselling as forms of protesting. And so 4 times I went and stood near the closed abortion centre and silently prayed there. And as you can see, the police came and asked me if I was protesting, which I wasn't. They asked me if I was praying, and I said I might be silently praying. I was arrested, I was searched, I was locked in a cell, I was then interviewed or interrogated, however you'd like to see it, during which I was quizzed about what I was praying about. I was then released on bail and then subsequently charged on 4 counts of protesting and engaging in an act intimidating of service users. So I now stand on trial on February the 2nd, supported by ADF UK, really for freedom of thought. And the concern is here in England that national buffer zones are now being discussed. So there's a possibility of every abortion centre in this country having a similar zone around it. And obviously the implications of that are really concerning.
If you're arresting people for praying, you are committing an act of evil. It's not a close call at all. There's sort of no debate about that. And I would think that even secular people would recognize that. Did anybody, any prominent person, step forward to defend you?
I have had a lot of people who say they're pro-choice or that they support abortion, but they've also got concerns about this. And that in itself is very encouraging to hear. That it's not necessarily about people who support abortion or don't support abortion. This is more to do with freedom of thought here. It's even gone further than freedom of prayer. I mean, we all talk about the cancel culture and the concerns we have about people being cancelled, speaking and public, maybe public speaking engagements. But to be arresting somebody for what they're thinking, it's just gone even a step further. It's actually quite surreal. That's the word I'd use to describe it. I mean, the amount of people who've used the word Orwellian to me to describe this, likening it to the 1984 novel. And it's really seemed like that to me from start to finish. And obviously it's not over yet, but it's just quite a surreal experience.
Well, it's evil. It's an act of evil. Arresting someone for praying is an act of evil, period. And it just breaks your heart to think of all the people in charge, your prime minister on down, who are standing by and allowing this to happen. And I'm just so glad that you did this. I hope you'll continue to do it. That's a human right. They can't take it away from you. And I appreciate your telling us about it on this show. Isabel Vaughan-Spruce, thank you.
On Tuesday, the 6th of December, I was arrested outside an abortion centre in Birmingham for silently praying. So I'd been there 3 times previously outside a closed abortion centre. Now, just to make it clear, there's a censorship zone, a PSPO around this abortion centre, which does prohibit certain activities like protesting. So when the police came, they asked me if I was protesting. I made it clear to them I wasn't protesting. They asked me if I was praying, and I said I might be silently praying. And on that basis, they arrested me. They did a full body search on the pavement, including thoroughly searching through my hair, confiscating everything out of my pockets, including my tissues. And I was then escorted down to the police station, locked in a cell for a few hours, and then interviewed by 2 police officers. So the officers wanted to know in the interview what was I praying? And again, I told them I was praying. They wanted to know what I was praying about. I remember telling the police officers that I was praying for people like my friend Amy, who was raped and became pregnant as a consequence, and was pressured into having an abortion, which she later deeply regretted. I was praying for people like my friend Natalia, who, after taking abortion pills, ended up passing her child at home down the toilet, which she saw, her child, and has now traumatized her for life. For people like my friend Kirsty, I told them, who passed her child after taking abortion tablets in her own bed, and on lifting up the bedclothes, saw what she described as a scene out of a horror movie. The police officers, I felt, weren't that sympathetic to this. They were maybe more interested in finding out if I was protesting in any way, which clearly I wasn't. I was not there to protest. So I was then released on bail. One of the terms of bail was that I was not allowed to go back to the abortion centre. And I was then subsequently charged on 4 counts of breaching the PSPO. And I'm now due to appear in court in February. People might be aware that there's quite a few of these censorship zones around abortion centres in different parts of the country. They're called PSPOs, Public Space Protection Orders, formerly used more for dog fouling or drunken disorderly behaviour. So these are put around abortion centres. There's in Ealing in London, in Richmond, in Manchester, in Bournemouth, and in Birmingham. So there's quite a few of them springing up around the country, imposed by local councils. And these are prohibiting not just protesting, not just harassment and intimidation, which of course are already prohibited and should be prohibited, not just outside abortion centres, but anywhere, but prohibiting things like prayer, counselling. And as we can see in my case, it's gone even further than this. It's not just vocal prayer or prayer that's manifested, but silent prayer inside my own head. So my own thoughts are now being censored. Many people might be aware that there's a discussion also on national buffer zones coming in. So every abortion facility in the country possibly having a censorship zone around it. And the concern is clearly now that are certain thoughts going to be prohibited within those areas? Are we going to have our thoughts censored, what we can and can't think in those areas? It's unbelievable that police would seriously be trying to clamp down on what people are thinking, to be actually quizzing them, to be asking them, what were you thinking about? What were you praying about as you were standing silently somewhere? But this is the reality. This is what's happening. Thought is becoming a crime. So we really need people to pray about this, that the police waken up to what they are doing, but that other people also waken up to really the situation here, and that their hearts are opened to the importance of freedom of thought.